Dumelang. Welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Manyatela. It's great to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, the ANC is between a rock and a hard place. The party's leaders are meeting this week to discuss which political parties they will form a government with. There are already internal divisions being caused by the different options available before the ANC. In fact, some NEC members have threatened to leave the organization should the ANC go into coalition with the DA. So why are some NEC members against this possible option? Lindiwe Sisulu is one of the leaders of the ANC who will answer that question for us. Also on the show, ANC veteran Pallo Jordan will join us to reflect on the party's dramatic electoral decline at this year's election and what that means not only for the organization but for the country as well. But first, my comment. So the ANC internal battles are playing out behind the scenes amongst ANC members as the party's leadership meets this week to consider which party to go into a coalition with. The ANC has several options before them. With their 40% at national level, they can work with the DA, which has expressed interest in negotiating with the party. They can bring in the IFP as well. Alternatively, they can negotiate with the MK party or the EFF, whether at national government or for provincial coalition governments where the ANC receive less than 50%. Here's what Fikile Mbalula said about the party's approach to coalition talks.
We're talking to everybody. There's nobody we are not going to talk to. Like I said to you at the beginning, when I was talking to you outside, let me repeat it again. We've been approached by political parties, as it is normal, and the outcome is clear. Nobody has got outright majority. So we'll talk to everybody.
So that's what Fikile Mbalula, the Secretary General of the ANC, had to say. The conundrum, though, is that ANC members themselves are divided on which option is in the best interest of the party and the country. There are some NEC members who are already threatening to quit the party should the ANC decide to go to bed, so to speak, with the official opposition. They say the ANC believes in non-racialism and question the DA's commitment to that. Other NEC members say the ANC should rather be on opposition benches and not return to the union buildings than compromise on its values by entering an agreement with a party that in their view is anti-poor, which a party in their view is anti-black. Even the ANC's alliance partners, COSATU, has warned the party against flirting with the DA. They say the DA is against the national minimum wage, for instance. It's against the NHI. It doesn't recognize race as a proxy for disadvantage. It's against employment equity legislation, and so it goes. But at the same time, some NEC members feel a partnership with the DA will actually bring about stability over the next 5 years. They argue that the markets actually favor this option, but also the agreement could be structured in such a way that the ANC continues to be in charge of the executive and the DA occupies key parliamentary positions like the position of speaker or chairs of committees in parliament. The EFF and the MK party are being seen by some NEC members as unpredictable, and they find some of their conditions unacceptable. I think whatever happens, political parties need to put their differences aside, even ideological differences, and be willing to compromise, because what is a negotiation without compromise, right? They need to make decisions that put the interests of South Africa first. But what partnership would that be? And that's the question I'm asking tonight. As the race to form a new government begins, which party do you think would be in the best interest of South Africa for the ANC to form a coalition with? Do you understand where some NEC members are coming from, those against an ANC-DA coalition? Do you agree with some ANC leaders that teaming up with the EFF or the MK party would be the best way to go? So which partnership do you think would be in the best interest of South Africa? You can send us a WhatsApp voice note right now on 078 479 1897. We'll play those throughout the show this evening. Remember to tell us your name and your surname as you send those WhatsApp voice notes and where you're sending them from. Please keep them at about 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. Now, the ANC is meeting this week to find a suitable partner to form a national government with. The DA has also appointed a team of senior members to engage in discussions with other political parties regarding coalitions at national and provincial levels, including discussions with the ANC. However, ANC-NEC member Lindiwe Sisulu has warned against the partnership with the Democratic Alliance. Sisulu's statement comes amid growing speculation about a possible ANC-DA coalition following the ANC's poor performance in the recent national elections. Facing the nation tonight is the ANC-NEC member Lindiwe Sisulu, who joins us via Zoom. Thank you so much for making time for us, Mr. Sisulu. Why do you believe a coalition with the DA would be catastrophic for all the efforts that have been made to transform the country? What are your views on that?
Because basically we are so ideologically at variance with the DA. I cannot imagine how it would be for us now, with all the problems that we have, be able to take the country forward, having to drag along people that are not, they don't have the same issues on their shoulders as we do. We have been in government for a very long time. The electorate has punished us over and over because we have not been able to deliver on the things that they need most and on the things that we have promised them. We would need at this point to very seriously take on a partner or partners that will help us deliver on the promises that we have made since God knows when, 1994. But I want to take you back some time in history of this country when we had a situation where we felt that perhaps the best way forward would be to have a government of national unity. We brought in the Democratic, the party, the National Party, and ourselves, and we formed a government. And for the first 2, 3, 4 months, it seemed like we would be able to cover the responsibilities that each one of us were committed to. But halfway through that, and I applaud the National Party for having taken this decision. The National Party sat down and said to us as a government, look, we are at such variance ideologically. We have different constituencies to deliver to. We've made promises to our constituencies, which we will not be able to deliver on. This relationship is not going to take us anywhere, and we would like to withdraw. We were shocked because at that particular time, we had not gone into the entrails of delivery and how it affects people on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And we agreed, and they took their decision and they left. And I applaud them for that. It was an honest decision. It was the kind of decision that was driven by a conscience that they're not delivering for their people. Here we are with the national ANC, with the ANC. Possibly we will need partners, but we need partners who are ideologically linked to our own ideology. Partners who will be able to deliver on that which we have promised our people.
Yeah.
No one is further from that than the DA. Why would we go for the one party that is completely at variance with what we believe in?
Yeah.
You look at the Western Cape and tell me what it is that the Western Cape has done to change the lives of our people. Maybe the same can be said for very many other parts of the country. But specifically, the difference in delivery and the difference in the way that government has responded to our people is glaring. You drive down the road from Parliament to the airport, and you'll be able to see the shacks on one side or whatever it is. Nothing has changed for our people in the Western Cape.
What about a partnership where the DA occupies key positions in Parliament and still allows the ANC to be the executive. It doesn't compromise on the party's policies. You still have space as the ANC to do your work as the executive, but they hold you accountable in Parliament by occupying some key positions there.
What key position are we talking about?
The position of Speaker, it could be the position of chairs of different committees in Parliament.
Why do we need to be monitored? Why do we need to be monitored? The system that we have right now works very perfectly. We have our own system in which we account to our people what it is that we're doing and what it is that we're not doing. We don't need a class monitor from the DA. Why would we take one party that is so ideologically at odds with ourselves?
Because
what has the DA done to show that they're concerned about the plight of, let's just put together a few of the things that they have opposed us on, that NHI just very recently, and you can go on and on, because they have a privileged background that they can fall back on. We have years and years of underprivileged people that we have to cover for. Why would we choose a DA?
So here's the conundrum here, Mr. Sisulu. The problem is, as the ANC, you don't have the majority government like you used to, where you can be in control of the executive and be in control of Parliament. You've got to choose at some point what you're willing to compromise on, because the voters in this country have said 40% is what you deserve. And that's not enough for you to be control of the executive and still want to occupy all the key positions in Parliament. So what are you willing to compromise on?
We're willing to compromise on many things, but we're not willing to compromise on the DA agenda. We have many black parties in Parliament, and together we're able to form the necessary majority that is required by the Constitution. Which
other parties do you think would be best suitable to go into coalition with the ANC?
Well, we could take many of the other black parties that are there, because they cover a wide spectrum of people that we're responsible for. Why don't we take, say, the IFP? No. Why don't we take the newly formed
MK party?
MK. Why don't we take any of the others? Why would we go for the DA? What puzzles me is we're just so ideologically at odds with each other. It just hasn't worked. And I've given you an example where a government has not been able to work, and a decision was taken that those who are not in a position to continue with the ANC ideology have withdrawn. Why should we repeat something that we have learned something from? We have very little in common with the DA. And the DA has insidiously, over time, tried to implant their own ideas into how we relate to our people. I'll take an example of a time when the president gave a speech in Parliament. It was the opening of Parliament, and for 2 or 3 paragraphs, he seemed to be quoting the DA. There was an uproar. Afterwards, the DA comes out and says, "We're terribly sorry. We gave the president our constitution so that he can consider it, and we don't know how it worked out like this. Maybe there was a confusion." There was no confusion. It was deliberate. It was deliberate. They have been insidiously trying to get into the ANC and see how they can control government through the ANC. And you can see how they're putting themselves out. Yeah. There are many other black parties representing the majority of our people that can come together.
Let's take one of the parties you've mentioned. Let's say the MK party, for instance. The only challenge with that is that it is said that the MK party's possible condition is that President Cyril Ramaphosa has to step down. And the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, says they will not negotiate with a party that even suggests the president of the ANC has to step down.
You know, negotiations will not be done overnight. That might be the first demand from the newly formed MK party for various reasons, and that is the first response of the ANC for various reasons. Coalitions are built over time. We ourselves have built this particular democracy over time through negotiation and understanding what is in the best interest of our people. And my view is that a DA partner is not in the best interest of our people. The majority of the people to whom we still have so much to deliver is black, remains very marginalized. Why would we choose the DA as a partner? Why?
So do you think that the ANC must entertain the MK party even with the demand that it comes with, that the President Cyril Ramaphosa...
I did not bring the MK party onto the table. You did.
Yeah, and I'm asking what your thoughts are.
There are many other parties that we could bring onto the table and work out an arrangement to go forward to make sure that we are able to constitute, the kind of requirement that the Constitution puts before us. But here we are. We are faced with a DA partner. Why DA? Why the DA?
Well, the ANC hasn't taken a decision yet. I think
it hasn't. But we are talking about the possibilities, and the possibility was thrown earlier on that the DA would be a more suitable partner. And my argument is it is not the most suitable partner. We've worked with the DA for a very long time. They are definitely not on our side. They do have their own agenda. They do want to deliver to their own people, and their own people might not be our people. Our people, who are the African people, have suffered for a very long time and have been waiting for us to deliver what we promised them. They've just recently now shown us what they feel about us by reducing the percentage of the vote that we get from them. Why would we bend over backwards for somebody who does not have the same ideology as ourselves? Amongst the black parties that are there, we can actually sit down and work out which of them is most likely to be responsive to the needs of our people, and make sure that perhaps we can look into that. We don't need to take time, or we don't need to do it overnight.
So if the ANC then says, okay, MK party, if you want Cyril Ramaphosa to step down, we're not willing to entertain that. They go to the EFF, and then the EFF says, give us the finance ministry position, give us the Speaker of Parliament. Do you think that would be fair requests in order to enter this arrangement?
A negotiation is not a give and take on one day. You negotiate and see what is in the best interest of the country. What you are giving out right now is the initial response of those particular parties. I don't know if there's ever been any engagement beyond that about any other possibilities that would find us in a situation where we can deal with our people which have been waiting for our delivery. What I am dealing with now is DA is not a suitable partner. Their ideology, their intention, their whole international perspective, everything about them is at variance with ourselves. Why would we choose the DA? Because
this sounds like it's quite a deal breaker for you, Mr. Sisulu. If the ANC does get into coalition with the DA, will you quit the party like some NEC members are threatening?
I think you're now deviating. We're talking about the suitability of the DA as a partner running the country, and I'm saying that definitely they're not the most suitable. That's all.
And I'm responding to you expressing your unhappiness.
Let me also go beyond the domestic terrain. The African National Congress has occupied a very important international space in our international relations. And this comes from the fact that we come from a background where we did form relationships with various countries who assisted us to be where we are. We have a solid base for that in BRICS. Explain to me what the place of the DA would be in BRICS. What is the relationship that the BRICS would want us to have with many of the other countries that we have relations with, that we've built relations with? What is the DA's relationship going to be to our relations with the Palestinian people? What is the DA's response going to be with our very strong relationship with Russia, with our very strong relationship with China? I could go on and on. Why would we want to reinvent what we have done over the past 20-something years? Where we've been successful, we would like to continue. And we don't want to be held back by people who don't think the same way as we do. Ideology is absolutely important in what you do in a government, because that is what you sell to the people when
Yeah.
you're out there campaigning. We did not say to our people, we're going to join the DA, come and vote with us, we're going to join the DA. That's not what
I
we
hear
said.
that.
We said let's deliver on all the things that we have not yet delivered on. We're going to deliver on the NHI, we're going to deliver on various other things that we have promised them, and we still haven't promised them. You want us to add on a baggage of people who don't think the way we do think? It's going to take us another 2 years to break through, to come together and have a common understanding of how we're going to take the country forward.
I hear that, Mr. Sisulu. I think my question still stands because you've chosen to express your personal view about this possible arrangement. What I want to understand is, what would a decision that the ANC takes to go into bed with the DA mean for your relationship with the African National Congress?
What do you mean by relationship with the African National Congress? That's not the issue. The issue here is about the governability of the country after elections, and where the ANC has to choose a partner or partners to ensure that we can deliver on the promises we have made. And some central policies that we've made are at complete variance with what the DA believes in. And I don't understand why we would be sitting here talking about the DA. It is definitely not the most suitable partner for us. It is not the most suitable partner for us for our international relations. It is not the most suitable partner for us for our local delivery. It is not the most suitable partner for us for many of the things that we're dealing with. So their perspective, even on issues of the justice system, there is they seem to have a burden to lecture down to us and overburden us with their own interpretation of what is law and what is legal and what is not. Just look at the people who have been targeted to go into investigations which have been started off by Parliament. You will not find a single person there who is part or partial to the DA. It is always those people who are in the ANC or in any other parties who are targeted. We're looking forward to a time when we will be able to say, we would like the DA to account for ABCD. We know too that they would very much like to remove the upper layers of our legal the justice system and impose their own Breitenbach there, who's always standing up. You know, they have a holier than thou attitude that they want to teach us what democracy is. We fought for this democracy. We know what we want. And we don't want a coalition with the DA. At least that's my view. And I came forward to say that because it is a very retrogressive position, and it would not solve the problems of our country. Our people have been waiting for us for a very long time to deliver on a lot of things. We want like-minded people whose ideology is very similar to ours to be able to fast-track and deliver. Yeah. We promise and promise. We're going to run out of promises very soon. Okay, but you will stay with the ANC even if they go in a partnership with the DA? My position with the ANC has nothing to do with the discussion that we're dealing with right now. Let me ask this then. Deshi Nganga is the ANC secretary in the Northern Cape. I see that he's come out to say Lindiwe Sisulu was never here, and this is a quote, Lindiwe Sisulu was never here, not a single day to do with election work since we started the elections process last year. Now she has the audacity to comment on whom we should actually form a coalition with. Is that a fair statement to make, that you were not there even during campaigning? So what gives you the right to want to come now and dictate to the ANC what position is better? No, I didn't go to the Northern Cape to run for elections. I campaigned where I was able to get to. If Deshi had money to get me a ticket to go to the Northern Cape, he would have done that. If Deshi had any concerns, he would have got in touch with me. He didn't. Were you involved, though, in campaigning for the ANC in other parts of the country? What do you expect? What do you expect? I was born in the ANC, and I'm not going to give up on the ANC. And I'm not going to be answering to you about what I'm doing about the ANC. I am an ANC member.
Yes, I'm just asking. I'm asking if you were campaigning. Were you campaigning during the elections?
To the extent that I was able to get to any place, I wasn't going to be taking pictures of myself or any of those things. That is not the issue that we're here about. Right now, we're talking about the DA-ANC coalition, and you are trying to divert the discussion.
No, I'm not trying to divert. I'm trying to bring in other factors I think are important for this conversation.
We're here to talk about a coalition going forward.
Yes, and I'm here to ask you about any other issue that is related to the coalition.
No, you're not going to ask me about any other issue.
And you don't have to respond. Yes, Mr. Sulu? My job here is to ask questions. If you feel you don't want to respond to my questions, then you can say so, but you won't tell me what to ask you.
No, because the topic that you put out, which I agreed to, is very clear. It has to do with the DA-ANC coalition.
And part of that, part of that, and that's why I said to you, because you have come out, there are NEC members that I've also personally spoken to who are not speaking publicly like you. Because you have taken the decision to talk publicly. To me, it's a relevant question to ask. Why, number one, you've decided to talk publicly? I think you've already responded today. But number two, because you are so passionate about or against the DA-ANC coalition, what happens if the ANC gets into that coalition? What happens to your relationship with the party? I still maintain that that's a relevant question to ask.
Yes, that is a relevant question, but the question that you're asking now has to do with petty, whatever correspondence that you have with Deshu in the Northern Cape. Let us stay focused on the people right now, not on the individual. The people right now have waited for us to deliver. We've made promises to them, and we've got to find a vehicle that will deliver on those promises. And the DA is not the best vehicle for us to deliver to our people. We've gone to elections and we've said to our people, we are coming back, we're going to do this and the other, and we have not been able to do it. The DA is not the right kind of coalition to go into for the ANC right now.
ANC, NEC member, Lindiwe Sisulu.
At any other time.
I appreciate your time this evening on Face the Nation. That's the ANC-NEC member, Lindiwe Sisulu. We've been asking you the question, what do you think would be in the best interest of South Africa? So which party should the ANC go into a coalition with, which you think is in fact the best it's in the best interest of the country? Some of you have sent your tweets, so let's look at those. On Twitter, Pindulo says the DA, simply because they took number 2 in the national results and they do try to deliver services in the metros. Melikaya says, hi Clement, given the fact that the freedom fought for by the ANC and others has not been felt by many South Africans, minority enjoy the economy and controls the means of production. The ANC should engage the left progressive parties and effect the awaited socio-economic transformation. Eddie Deepfield says, a party that understands economics would be a good start. All right, thank you so much for all of your tweets you've sent at Face the Nation SABC. You're welcome to also tweet us as you react to the conversation we've had with the ANC-NEC member Lindiwe Sisulu. Let's listen to some of the WhatsApp voice notes that have come through.
This is Ruben Ruma from Alberton. I think the ANC must go with the DA. We've got a better chance for the country to recover. Corruption won't be there, and DA will be forced to reform as well. That will be the only option that we have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, guys. This is Mr. Modlia. I feel that ANC rather collide with MK and EFF. Let's give them a chance to do something for our country. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. The coalition between the ANC and the DA, I think it will be a good coalition. Those that are not happy with the ANC working with the DA just want to carry on with the looting. We need someone that is going to be a watchdog, and there is no one but the DA. I think ANC, DA, and the IFP, they will make the best team. Thank you.
Hi there, Sepedi speaking. I believe ANC and EFF can do well, provided that they do away with the pride. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for your WhatsApp voice notes. After the break here on Face the Nation, we are going to reflect on the ANC's dramatic decline in electoral support with one person who's been with the party for a very long time. ANC struggle stalwart Pallo Jordan joins us as we reflect on the performance of the ANC in this year's elections and what it means not only for the party but for the country as well. Stay with us. Welcome back. South Africa's political landscape has undergone a significant change after this year's elections. For the very first time since 1994, the elections did not produce a clear winner at national level and in some provinces, and the ANC support has fallen dramatically to 40%. As a result, the party will need to collaborate with other parties to form government. So is the declining ANC electoral support a cause for concern? ANC veteran Pallo Jordan is facing the nation tonight. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Mr. Jordan. So as an ANC veteran, watching how dismal the ANC has performed in these elections, are you surprised at all by the performance of the party?
Well, I wouldn't say that the ANC has performed dismally. I would say that the ANC's electoral base was undermined by the presence of breakaway parties from the ANC. That, of course, is an indication of, I suppose, internal contradictions within the ANC itself, and also reflects cleavages and problems within the society. What I expected was a decline in ANC electoral support.
Yeah.
I didn't expect a rout. And that surprised me, yes.
Yeah. I mean, this decline has been coming for a long time. The ANC itself admits that there's so much that has gone wrong in the organization. Whether you talk about corruption, factional battles, you name it. Why was this decline not arrested much earlier? Because that's part of the reason why the party has dramatically had its support go this down.
No. I think what must understand about political movements is that they're held together by a number of principles and a number of objectives. But people come to that political movement motivated by different things, by different personal, I suppose, ambitions, etc. So there comes a time in any political organization when those sorts of differences then begin to express themselves. Many years ago, when first we encountered, I suppose, in dialogue, members of the Afrikaner intellectual elite in Dakar, one had said to them, amongst other things, that there will come a time during democracy when the ANC itself will begin to fall apart because it's held together by particular objectives. And the particular objective was the liberation of the dominated black masses, African, colored, Indian, and others. But there would come a time when that unity itself will not be enough to take it forward. And at that point, various factions in the ANC will begin to emerge, various class interests in the ANC will begin to express themselves, etc., etc., etc. And there might come a time when the ANC will fall apart. Now, you have seen that happening since 1994. the first major breakaway from the ANC was the UDM, followed by COPE, followed by EFF, and then now followed by MKP. So that is something that one anticipated in a sense. So one is not surprised by that outcome. Now that indicates contradictions within the ANC and perhaps problems within the society that the ANC has not been able to resolve. Now that makes you take pause and think seriously about your own strategy as a movement. Now, there are certain principles I think that the ANC has always stood by and has adhered to. And those principles are those that one finds in our democratic constitution. And we must remember that democratic constitution is something that we fought for. It is an achievement of the national liberation movement.
So what does this moment mean then for the ANC? Is it even possible for the party, in your view, to claw back this support that it's lost? Or is this the beginning of the end for this party as we know it?
No. It's not the beginning of the end. It might well be a new beginning. You see, as I was saying, the ANC at one point was held together by a particular number of objectives, shared objectives. People interpreted those objectives differently. One person had once said, some entered the ANC in order to make their fortune on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and another person enters the ANC just to get a plot of land that he can till, you know. But they're both in the ANC. Another person works for the one who wants to make his fortune on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So all those things are within the ANC at one point. And of course, as we move forward, they might well begin to express themselves in different ways. The dissatisfaction that is evident in the breakaways from the ANC was something that one anticipated in a sense. Now you are saying, could it have been arrested? Perhaps. But then again, perhaps you cannot. And perhaps you need not. Perhaps it is a necessary process.
Kgalema Motlanthe had similar views, Mr. Jordan, around how necessary perhaps of a process it is that the ANC goes through this, because then that becomes a wake-up call. And whenever I hear people, even after elections, you know, just people across the board that I have conversations with who talk about their experience, for those who have not voted for the ANC, they say, well, we just wanted this to be a wake-up moment for the organization. Some of them indicate that, well, we don't necessarily want them to completely lose power, but we wanted them to lose significant support so that they somehow wake up and realize that the time to act is now. Do you think that this was necessary for the ANC to wake up and realize that the commitments that it's been making over the years and not realizing are urgent now, or else that's going to be the end of the organization?
No. I don't think that it will mean the end of the organization. The ANC,
well, as a governing party,
has to learn from its experience. It has to learn from its victories. It has to learn from its defeats. And I think that's the only way you move forward. And I don't think it's the end of the ANC at all. But what I think it does say to the ANC is that you have to look at what has come about into society as a result of the struggle that you, as the African National Congress, led. We must not forget that it is ANC that led the struggle for liberation. It is the outcome of what we did that has produced this result.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be shocked at it. What we must look at is, what does it mean? And what does it mean about the way in which society has changed since 1994? I was speaking to a young woman this morning, and I asked her about what was happening in 1993. And she said, well, I was born that year. Can you dig it?
Yes, Mr. Jordan, we're listening.
No, I'm saying, do you understand what that means?
Yeah, he was born in
A
1993.
young woman I spoke to just this morning, and I asked her about something that happened in 1993, and she didn't know about it experientially because she was born that year. So, she's 30 years old now, 31 years old now. So we're talking about, a generation of voters who have a completely different experience from myself, for example. A different experience even from someone of the age of the average ANC MP.
So,
You understand?
yes.
And that is an outcome of what we did. It would not have happened had we not fought for liberation, had we not attained democracy.
Which is great, Mr. Jordan, because of your fight, which we appreciate so much for liberation, we are able to live in a democratic country where the rule of law and the Constitution is supreme. But then, after having done what was amazing together with other stakeholders in fighting that ruthless apartheid system, as you said earlier, there are other people who are in positions for the wrong reasons. So there's also things that the ANC has done which has led to the electoral support declining.
No. It's not wrong for a black person to want to be a capitalist in South Africa. Not wrong at all.
Well, some of them have stolen money. Some have stolen money.
It's not wrong for a black person to want to attain the highest status in academy. It's not wrong. It's not wrong for a black person to want all the rights that whites in the past enjoyed and monopolized. It's not wrong at all. Nothing is wrong in that. What is wrong is the way in which you achieve it. You see, now, historically, what the whites did was monopolize power in such a way that they became dominant economically and otherwise in this society. They used their political power in that way. The temptation then for black leaders, when they attain political power, to use their political power in the same way is very great. And that's what happened in many instances. But you cannot say that someone who enters the ANC because he wants to be a capitalist is wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
And that's not the point I'm making. I was trying to say what is wrong is ANC leaders who get into a government with an intention to steal. And we have seen instances of corruption.
Well, maybe not. Maybe they're not getting into government with the intention to steal.
So what happened? What happens?
I get you.
Did they just find
corruption? I agree with you, absolutely.
So what I'm trying to understand, Mr. Jordan, is if there's no intention, what are they just waking up and they find their hand in the cookie jar and they didn't know how it got in there?
Corruption is wrong. Let's agree corruption is wrong. And I condemn it outright. Now, why people become corrupt, that's another story. Or how they become corrupt, that's another story.
So what's the way forward? So as someone who's been
the way forward is for the ANC to take on board what the electorate has said in this election. It has expressed, first of all, the diversity of the society. The diversity of the society, which is a consequence of democracy. It has expressed as well many of the contradictions within the black communities. For the first time, you have a party like the Patriotic Alliance, which almost explicitly speaks in ethnic terms. That's in a way a step backward, if you know what I mean. But it's a reality nonetheless. You see? So there are all these elements which the ANC has to look at in terms of what we have done, what our democracy has become, and the direction in which it could move and needs to move.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion to you, Mr. Jordan? What you are suggesting to us this evening has already been done. This is not the first time that the ANC finds itself in a situation where voters are expressing unhappiness at the ballot box. In 2016, it happened when they were losing metros. One second, Mr. Jordan. What did the ANC do then after 2016? They said exactly what you're saying now. This is an opportunity to listen, a renewal agenda, a new dawn. 2019, a similar thing happens. Again, this time around, the same thing is happening.
Right.
What I'm suggesting to you is what you're saying to us has already been said by ANC leaders and has not done. There's no difference we've seen in the much difference we've seen in the organization, and that's how voters feel. That's why the ANC now is at 40%.
That might well be the case. That might well be the case. But you see, there's no other recourse but to try to renew the movement.
Part of what has to happen next is to get into discussions with other parties to form a coalition. I had an ANC-NEC member, Lindiwe Sisulu, a couple of minutes ago on this show, warning against that possible partnership between the ANC and the DA. She, according to her, she believes that this would reverse the gains of the governing party. What are your thoughts of the ANC partnering with the Democratic Alliance? When you look at the two ideological positions, would that be in the best interest of the ANC and the country, in your view?
Well, regrettably, I was unable to listen to Lindiwe, because I was on the line here waiting for you guys. But the fact of the matter is the leadership of the ANC has said it is open to discussions with all parties about a way forward. And I think the president underlined in his statement that what is important now is the common interest of South Africa and what is in the best interest of South Africa. You know, there's something that sometimes surprises me about the discourse these days, because we speak in terms that suggest that coalitions are something new in South African politics. They are not new in South African democratic politics. The very first democratic government was a coalition. So was the second. I think it's only the third and the fourth that were not coalitions. But even in the last government, the outgoing government, there was a member of another party in the cabinet.
Yeah.
So we're quite accustomed to working with other parties in coalitions.
But the
so there's nothing new in South African politics, in democratic politics at all.
Yes, you're right. But the question I'm asking is more specific, Mr. Jordan. What I'm asking is, when you look at the values that the DA represent, when you look at their policies, when you look at their ideological position, and you look at the ANC's values, whether you talk about non-racialism, whether you talk about employment equity legislation, would it make sense to you as an ANC veteran for the organization to get into partnership with the DA?
The first democratic coalition with our sworn enemies.
Yes.
The NP. And I don't know how old you are, but do you remember what was happening between 90 and 94 in the African townships of the Witwatersrand? Do you remember?
Please,
or do you know?
Please remind our viewers who may not remember.
No. But do you know?
No.
Yeah. There were murderous campaigns undertaken by one political party against ANC supporters in that part of the world, in collaboration with elements of the old regime.
Yes.
We went into coalition with that party. You know that? That first democratic government was a coalition with that party. So you see, sometimes in the interests of the country, you have to sit with your sworn enemy. So the ANC leadership has stated its position with respect to discussions about coalitions, and I stand by that position.
So what do you think of the MK party? One of the things some of the ANC leaders are saying as they reflect on this decline in electoral support is that when you look at where the votes are moving from the ANC and going to, they're still within sort of the traditional base of the ANC. As you said earlier, the breakaway parties, the EFF, the MK party, even though one might argue that they are offering something a little different, but at the very core, these are organizations that sort of broke away from the African National Congress. How do you reflect on the MK party? Because that's the biggest winner of this year's elections, having amassed about 15% of the national vote.
Yes, that's one of the things one has to reflect on very seriously. No, I think these breakaways do express some of the failings of the ANC as a government, and I think they reflect also other elements in politics. We have to study these breakaways, I think, a little bit more closely. If you take, for example, a breakaway like the UDM, it's declined now. I think they'll get maybe 1 or 2 seats in this parliament. Another COPE, I think they'll get maybe, if they get 1 seat or none at all. The EFF, they've dropped a little bit. And MKP almost, not from nowhere, from ANC supporters in the KZN province. Yeah. I mean, let's just face it, that's what it was. ANC supporters, the KZN province, voted for the MKP. Yeah. And that's what happened.
Do you think the ANC must try and engage the former president and see if there's an opportunity to work together there?
Well, that's not for me to say. I think, the position of the ANC leadership is what I stand by, that is open to discussions with everyone.
And those, just lastly, those who demand to the ANC that Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, has to step down before there can be a negotiation that comes. What do you make of that?
We've been through that sort of thing before. I don't want to be rude, but how old are you?
I was born in 1990, Mr. Jordan. I'm 24 this year.
Oh, yeah. What a pity. Anyway, dig it. during those negotiations between 1990 and 1994, we broke negotiations, I think, twice. There was a point at which the NP actually withdrew the indemnity of some of our very negotiators. Comrades like Krizani, comrades like, they actually arrested back Maharaj, Rani Councils had to go underground, and all sorts of things like that happened. But still, we got to that 1994 election. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So you go through some very tough times sometimes in politics, and it looks like there's no way forward, and you have to make tough decisions. But the realities dictate that you move in a particular direction.
Absolutely. My last question to you, are you still a loyal, committed member of the African National Congress?
Of course.
Okay. Mr. Pallo Jordan.
I gave, my entire adult life to it. So it would be ridiculous not to be.
Thank you so much for making time for us. I really appreciate it. That's the ANC struggle stalwart, Pallo Jordan. He says sometimes in tough situations, you have to sit down with the enemy. But Lindiwe Sisulu says the DA must not even be an option the ANC considers as it tries to figure out how to form a government at national level and also in some provinces. Let me remind you of a question we've been asking you tonight. As the race to form a new government begins, which party do you think would be in the best interest of South Africa for the ANC to form a coalition with? Let's take a look at some of the tweets that have come through. Vincent says the EFF, MK and ANC are all working for the stomach. Their marriage will be a recipe for disaster. The ANC needs to work with someone who will enforce accountability. Mafuneyedwa says all of them, they are very important and voted for by the people. They all have to agree and serve the people of this nation. Windy says the DA is a no-no, period. They are not for the majority. The EFF, UDM, ATM, etc., and even Umkhonto, they choose DA. I will never ever consider the ANC again. Papa says a broad national unity government as in 1994 is the way to go. Mzuvukile says the ANC and EFF, because of their policies which are similar, if not the same, but the difference may be that the EFF looks more radical than the ANC, and the EFF is more socialist than the ruling party. But that cannot be a stumbling block. So those are the tweets that have come through. Let's listen to some of the WhatsApp voice notes we've asked you to send about the partnership you think would work between the ANC and which party and why. Here's what some of you have had to say on the WhatsApp voice note line.
ANC and DA in order to bring back to enforce ethical behavior in government.
This is Wilson. There's no way that we as ANC that we vote with the DA. There's no way. We voted for ANC, we have 40%, and we need to count on those people who voted for the ANC. There is no way. We can try to make other plans, but we just cannot at all collide with the DA.
Evening, ANC, EFF, IFP coalition will be good for the country. The DA spoke passionately about unseating the ANC. That was their mandate, not any other service delivery to the nation. Refule Mashiani, thank you.
Hello, my name is Kulani Stole. I'm in Durban. A coalition with the DA is a wrong turn for us Africans. We are suffering. DA have done nothing. DA is oppressing us in all ways of industry. I'm currently sitting as an engineer doing nothing because they are locking everything. They're putting all the good things to themselves. DA and ANC, it's no-go zone, no-go zone. It's a sellout to our revolution. Thank you, bye.
Good evening. First of all, we must understand we didn't lose. We didn't lose the election as ANC against the DA. We lost the election within the ANC itself, against the ANC members. Therefore, the coalition that is appropriate, progressive, is the ANC, EFF, and United Democratic Movement. Please, those three. Then you don't need to engage with MK Party, because its demand is nothing else but one.
All right, thank you so much for engaging with us tonight on Face the Nation. Thank you for your tweets. Thank you for your WhatsApp voice notes as well. This is how we wrap up the Tuesday edition of Face the Nation. We'll be back on Thursday at 8 p.m. Thanks for watching. Cheers.